Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Impactful Salon Owners podcast. I'm your hostess, Jacqueline Rodriguez, and today we have a very special guest. I feel like I say that every single week, but I mean it every single week. We've got some really amazing big players in the beauty industry. They never disappoint, and it's such a great conversation. And today is no different. And today we have Denise, the founder of Complexions Spa for Beauty and Wellness and Dubois Beauty. Welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So we got a chance to connect through email, and then we had a great conversation a few weeks ago, and I got to learn more about all the things that you're doing in your spa, which I was really inspired by. So tell us a little bit more about your journey in skincare and the spa industry.
Okay, well, we're going back quite a few years. I actually started in 1984, and in the state of New York, there was no such thing as an esthetician's license. So I did have to go to school in a different state. I went to the only accredited aesthetic school in the country at the time was Catherine Hines Institute. So I went to school there after completing cosmetology school in New York, because that was what was required of New York, which having that training was a good foundation. Went on to get my aesthetics license and then opened up Complexions Professional Skincare. And then over the years, through the years, we evolved several times we morphed into Complexion Spa for Beauty and Wellness. So we started as just a skincare clinic, Complexions Professional Skincare, and then over the years, evolved into a full spa and salon.
I love that. And when you got started, were you into clean beauty or sustainable beauty?
That was not how we started. So that was something that, is part of my training over the years. I mean, being in the industry, you can never stay stagnant, right? You have to continue your education ongoing indefinitely. Is something that has to be done. So through the education process over the years, I learned about LEED certification and clean beauty, being a green spa. I had joined the Green Spa Network. It was something that I learned and then had the opportunity. One of the times that we were expanding the spa, we had the opportunity to purchase a building down the road from us. And when we were doing our renovations, I have the good fortune of having a father who's in construction and a brother who's a structural engineer. And I got them on board with helping me to achieve that LEED certification. So it was definitely not something from the start, but something that we were really happy that we were able to accomplish.
I love that. And when you started to do that transition, you were running a full, successful spa at the time, right?
Yes, I was. And because we were moving into a brand new location, it didn't disrupt the operations at all. We were really fortunate. I was working, our first location was down the road from our current location. We were in a strip mall. That's where we started. We rented out a 1,500 square foot space. And we expanded once in that location. Then we moved across the street into a larger space. So we went from 1,500 to 2,000 to 4,000. And then we moved into our present location, which was 8,400 square feet. And then we actually expanded here as well before opening our second location. So we had quite a bit of growth over those years. But during that transition from the strip mall to a freestanding location, that was when we had the good opportunity to build. Really, we did a major renovation to the building. It was considered new construction. We dug right down to the foundation because we had to redo all the plumbing in the building. Those people in the spa industry and salon industry, we have a lot of plumbing. So we had to basically chop up the floors to put that plumbing in. So the only thing remaining was the four masonry walls, and of course the roof. And so it was considered new construction when we did this major renovation here. And at that time was when we were able to achieve that LEED certification.
I love that. Now, for those of us who may not know, what is a lead certification, and what's the importance of it?
The building is registered with the U.S. Green Building Council, and LEED certification is a kind of like a scorecard. There's four different levels of LEED certification: leadership and energy efficiency design, and you can reach bronze, gold, silver, or platinum. I'm sorry, it's gold, it's bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and they there's the process from your breaking down all of the construction before starting it. So it started with even just your site selection, um, and you would achieve points for all of these greening efforts, or environmentally friendly efforts. And they had every in different categories. It was from your landscaping to how you deconstructed the present building and prepared your lot for the construction. It was the how close were you to public transportation? I mean, site location, all of those things went into this whole process. So you achieve your points, and then when you turn this in with your LEED certification application, that's your score, is where you land with your certification. And we were able to become the first gold level um, LEED certified spa in the country for new construction. So we worked hard. And my brother, being an engineer, was really at the forefront of working with NYSERDA, the New York State. Um, NYSERDA was an organization that's part of New York State, that they helped us in this process also. So we truly had a team of engineers, with my brother at the forefront of that, helping us through this process.
I love that. So, really, it was very intentional build, and not just the build out, but even how you had to dispose of waste and what you're doing with the old construction, because we don't even think about everything that happens there before you start to build out.
Yes. So, it was really interesting when we were doing the construction and, the renovation as it started. We literally had dumpsters in the parking lot, and we had to sort out the different types of metal. We recycled a lot of the building materials that we were not going to be using, and then you would dispose of them properly so that they could be recycled. And we also repurposed things, and so that was a huge process that we were hands on, doing some of that work ourselves. And then, of course, when you rebuild, like your steel studs, we would buy recycled steel. We used cork flooring that was recycled cork, in our flooring, which was also really nice. It was a quiet, for the spa, so it was perfect. It was soft on your feet in the salon, so. And the lighting fixtures, that were selected were low efficiency. Excuse me, were not going to use a lot of wasteful electricity. They were energy efficient. We VOCs, you had to use low VOCs, which is volatile organic compounds, in your paints and your adhesives and glues, wallpaper. So every little detail of the building, had to pass the criteria for the LEED certification. It was a challenging process, and but in the end, it was really well worth it, because we did one of the most amazing accomplishments was NYSERDA. Because of the extent of our efforts, they did award us a $31,000 grant. So that, was wonderful. But really impactful was they bought down our mortgage by 4 interest percentage points. So that saved us thousands and thousands of dollars, as you can imagine, in the interest alone. So, those efforts. But then, we also, on top of that, we were New York State Energy Research Development awarded us a bronze plaque and the $31,000 grant. We became Energy Star Small Business a Year of the Year award. We achieved that. So we did get a lot of grants and some, money, but we also saved thousands of dollars in our utility bills and water, because we used the low flow, showers and toilets, and which really didn't, in no way was anything compromising the guest experience. But everything was just truly much more efficient, and it was great. And the whole motivation behind it, initially it cost us a little bit more in the construction cost, but we saved in the long run, over the years, and the grants and the interest rate reduction was huge for us. It was almost free money, essentially. So that was really huge. But we also reduced our carbon footprint, by the equivalent of 10 office buildings. So when you think about it, what was our motivation? Yes, it was, to be good for the environment. But when you think about it, we're in the beauty and wellness industry, and wellness doesn't stop with what you use on your face, but it also the environment that you are in. So our motivation was to provide wellness, beauty and wellness services in an environment that was healthy for you, for our environment, and also for our employees, so that they were working in a clean environment as well. So, I have an inventory manager. So all of the products that we bring into the spa, we try to bring in clean, products, and we look for, things that are going to, in our retail space, that are going to continue that, vision of that clean, beauty, which is what led to Dubois Beauty, our skincare line that we use in the spas.
Yeah, yeah. And there's so much there that you said that I want to unpack before we get into the beauty, to Dubois Beauty, because I really want to hear all about that as well. But I think it's so amazing to see, because you were already a successful salon. Now, you did have the opportunity of, you were moving buildings. So that was one thing that was really amazing. But in terms of like how you ran the business with clean beauty, with sustainability inside the business before you did the build out, were you doing all of that before the build out, or was that kind of a new thing as well?
It was part of when we launched in our new space, that was part of our story. That was part of our launch. So that was when we really took the opportunity to tell our story, and in a new way. And so it was part of our branding and excitement of moving into a new space.
Love that. So, what I see a lot of salon owners and spa owners say, and a lot of my students I see, talking about how hard it is to have a successful business, because you're doing business one way. They know you for certain things and they are committed to that brand and everything. So they get a little scared to start to change the brand and the way that you do business. But in my experience, and it seems like in your experience, like being able to take them on that journey and have that new brand, it seemed to work out for you. I'd love to hear a little bit more about like, how did you do that with your team? How'd you get them on board, and how'd you get your clients on board with it all?
I think clients, we never had any pushback. Clients were always very excited about what we were doing, and they saw the why behind, when you tell your story, knowing your why. We worked hard at, trying to make sure people understood that. And we've had employees over the years want to come and work here because we are a clean, green, environmentally friendly spa and salon. And so it's always helped our story, and it's given us a unique selling point. as well. But I think, you know what it is? It's taking the spa, beauty and wellness in our name to a whole nother level. You have to walk the talk. You have to, walk the talk. You have to, you know, practice what you preach, right? So that really was just an extension of who we were, and what we were doing. And clients and customers really appreciated that. Now, I should point out in our second location, which we opened up in 2014, we purchased our space in a condominium building. Our second spa is two floors, first and second floor. So we didn't own the building, so we couldn't have the same type of LEED certification. So what we did there, because it's new construction, it wasn't an option because it was an existing space, but we did use building materials, the same type of lighting fixtures in the interior, so you can achieve those things, even on a smaller scale. It doesn't have to be an entire building. You can do it on even just your interior design and the products that you use and the space that you create, so, and your business practices to support that.
Well, and that's what I'm always teaching my students is it's clean and sustainable beauty is not just a product. And then all of a sudden you're clean and sustainable. It is taking the idea and the intentionality behind being less wasteful, your carbon footprint, getting rid of the toxins that is in the salon, like the VOC. So when you go to change paint, you get a lower VOC paint. Or when you're changing, if you do have to change out floors or even our furniture that we're using, like there's so many different ways to accomplish that. And that really goes into it. Yeah.
And even your power that you can buy power that's from, wind, right? Or energy from, the panels. But things that were also included with our, LEED certification, we're even putting out, we have bicycle racks out front. People could ride their bike. We're on um, our location of our business is on the bus route. So, even things like that are part of that environmentally friendly. It provides an opportunity for people to get to you.
Accessibility. That's amazing. I love that you were already doing something and you decided to make that transition and bring your clients and your team along the journey with you. And all of that built out to Dubois Beauty. So tell us a little bit about that, realization and what goes into that.
So, we got our LEED certification in 2007. So we were using other brand name products that, sure, they're all brands that many of us have worked with or heard of in the past. But as you all know, product lines get bought and sold, and the brand integrity can change, or the new owners don't have the same philosophy, the formulas change, so truly the other thing that happened with us is COVID really changed, I think, the industry as far as retailing, because I remember the vendors we carried at the time asking us for our database so that they could, help us continue to do retail sales while we were all shut down. So there was a mindset that happened during COVID where the consumer started to go online to buy their products. So they're not walking through our doors as much to purchase retail. I know so many salon owners that are experiencing the same thing. Our retail numbers are not as high as they used to be. And I do think that the very vendors that we were carrying and we raise awareness for by selling them in our spas, they become our competition because, they sell directly to the consumer and they offer incentives that I wasn't offered discounts, gift with purchases, free samples, things of that nature that were making our customers were naturally would go online, they would look up the brand and they would take advantage of the reduced price or the incentivized of the gifts. So these, I would try to work with my vendors and they would tell me they'd give me the commission on the sale of, but it's such a difficult thing to track, right? So I feel like professional brands, that was the motivation for me to say, I can't, if you can't beat them, I'm going to create my own line. I need to do something. The only way I could control it was to create our own skincare line. So that was, I set out and I actually first hired a marketing uh, woman. Her name was Sarah, and I hired a wonderful chemist. Her name was Allison. I was introduced to these professionals by a colleague of mine in the industry, and we had a meeting. We met down in New York City, and we went through a process. It took several months to just come up with your brand story, right? We did a focus group with our customers. We asked them, what do you want? We did a focus group with all of our estheticians at the spa. What we asked them, what do you want to use and what are your favorite products to use in the treatment room? And being a practicing esthetician myself now for over 40 years, what my experience as an esthetician, and fortunately, I'm still hands-on and still always educating myself. I knew what I wanted as well. So all of us collectively collaborated and came up with our brand story. And we came up with our product briefs. And the chemist, she was so helpful for me learning about, what is clean beauty and, what are ingredients that you shouldn't have. And throughout this process to help me understand, I did become an integrative health coach, and I became certified in, organic cosmetic formulating through an organization so that I could understand, product formulation. And so we then put together our product briefs. We interviewed so many laboratories because clean beauty, I could not go to a lab or even you can go and get a private label product and slap your label on it. But so many products out there, they had the ingredients that we didn't want in there, you know. And a small example is phenoxyethanol. We don't have phenoxyethanol in any of our products. It's a alternative preservative that was, introduced that and considered safe in certain dosages. But we didn't want it in our product. So I couldn't just buy a product off the shelf, and put my label on it because it wasn't going to fit the criteria. So we found some labs that would work with us that would produce at smaller quantities. And, and that's how we got started, but it's completely custom, I went to, packaging shows and we sourced our packaging, that's all airless pumps. And we hired a graphic designer who came up with our logo. And Dubois my last name means of the woods. So we wanted to stick with that. And we sourced ingredients from the boreal forest, to be a part of our brand story. And, and here we are now. We have a beautiful collection, of products that we launched in 2022, and clients can purchase it, at the spa. So I don't have to worry about competing with the big brands, just selling direct to consumer and, taking the sales. the industry has changed.
The industry has changed. And to your point about, retail itself, especially when we're looking at how retail is done now, online sales are huge. So I do see a lot of changes, even with the brands of like doing affiliate links so that you have a specific link that you send out and it is commission based there. So I do love how since the industry has changed that brands are starting to like bring in the stylist and the salon owner again, and it's not just on their site. So I think there's a nice partnership that is starting to occur and we're seeing more and more of.
Yeah, and hopefully, it'll continue that way. And because, retailing is, we're talking to, salon owners, retailing is a big portion of what we do, right? And making sure the clients have the proper home care to maintain the results of the professional treatments that goes hand in hand.
Well, and it's more than even just a product. It's relationship building and it's education. And there's so much more in it than just retail sales. And I think, especially with anybody listening, like, as you're listening to this, because your story is big, like you made some really big decisions and some changes and transitions, and even if you're listening to this and you may not be able to make all those big changes, taking those small changes is so impactful. And it can still help your bottom line, bring in more money, still create so much impact on your carbon footprint and your sustainability and reducing, the toxins in your salon. You don't have to do it all. I love that you were able to. It all adds up and makes such a big difference. And and with anyone listening, like I think too, if you're interested in your own product line, many years ago when I started in the industry, I had this dream of like, I'm going to own my own salon and then I want my own product line. And that since has changed. I thought I was going to do a product line, but there's a lot that goes into it, and it just wasn't the path for me. And that's why I went more into coaching, because I know my mission and my vision of where my expertise would lay better than a product brand. But there are so many ways that you can take control of that and be a part of the solution for the industry. Tell us what's in the pipeline for you. You've done so much, but what's coming up and where are you going next?
In our industry, I think that, I have been in the industry for many years. And you can never stay stagnant, right? You have to constantly be evolving and listening to your customers and going to trade shows and taking educational classes and listening, learning how is the industry changing? And I think for myself, my business has continued to to evolve as I have aged, and my knowledge and education grows through that. When I say aging process, I mean, what happens in our lives, intrinsic and extrinsic aging, as we move through, the years. And the direction for complexions is going to be more and more in the direction of that longevity lifestyle. I think that spa services and shouldn't be thought of as obviously as a pampering and indulgence. And skincare is not just facials. Skincare is also about lifestyle. So as I expand, or not even expand, but evolve our offerings, we are moving into that direction of, nutraceuticals. And we have 2 nurses working with us now. We have a doctor overseeing them. And, of course, we're doing some of the injectables and that sort of thing. But we're trying to really grow the lifestyle, health and wellness, and spa. I want to merge the synergy of beauty and wellness services with the health benefits. And we actually have a tagline that we use called Pamper with a Purpose, and we've used that for decades. And so really focusing on what does that truly mean, and teaching people the health benefits of massage, and how that even massage can help your skin, right? And food choices, nutraceuticals, understanding your hormones, and what are bioidentical hormones, and all of this is really how I see our business continuing to evolve, so that you're truly a beauty and wellness facility.
I love that. And that's what I see for the future of the beauty industry as well.
Mhm. Well, the medical community is really getting, their doctors' offices are adding facial services, right? And these are not insurance based procedures. I think, what's happening in the medical community is also influencing how medical offices are evolving. They want to get into more cosmetic things because it's a cash business. And there's both industries are changing, and I'd like to see a more of a synergy, you know uh and I feel like we have to move in this direction. So
Yeah, and the direction I see is, in the wellness and maybe med spas and things like that, but coming more together. But I also see people with purpose running the wellness of the entire business and making sure that it is a win 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 for everyone, people, planet, the profits, the entire business structure being a win win for everyone in the community and anyone that that business touches, which I think is so beautiful. And, it's a really big reason why I wrote my book, that is coming out very soon, but change worthy, because I really believe that our business, our industry, and each one of us as beauty professionals are change worthy. We are worthy of changing for the better, having more health, focused businesses, more wellness focused businesses, and not being surrounded by so much toxic, stuff that it hinders how we can run our business, and even how long we can stay in the industry. So I think that that's such a big thing. And I wanted to bring up the book because you also wrote a book called Living Beautifully, right?
yeah. Creating a holistic lifestyle. And I really, the book does talk about, um it talks about the the pillars of skincare. um but it also talks about daily wellness, and there's a holistic self-assessment in here, that you can take, that helps you map out where your daily wellness rituals, where you might need to do a little bit more or do a little bit less. And it talks about nutritious eating, toxic relationships, clean beauty. It talks about things that we have control over that impact our health, just these simple everyday lifestyle choices, from food, to your work, who you're working, who you're spending your time with. So all of those things. And you know it, living intentionally, right? And making choices that are going to be good for you.
I love that. And, that it is all about intentionality, living intentionally, running a business intentionally, having that type of impact very intentionally in the industry. So I just appreciate you being here. I would love to hear, where can we find you? Where can we find the book and everything about you?
Well, I do have Instagram, at Denise Dubois Skin. Also, we have a website, duboisbeauty.com, where all of the skincare products are found, as well as the book. And you can email me, Denise at complexions.com. I'm always happy to answer questions. It's mentoring others. I do. Uh, I've had so many hundreds of employees over a career of 40 years, and I've had some employees who have been with me for 25 years, and some who have stayed and moved on to start their own, businesses. But it's, nice to see people growing and learning from, the seeds that we can help nurture. And so, yes, I'm always happy to answer questions and learn from my mistakes.
I love that. And I appreciate that. And that's where, in the show notes, as always, we will have all the links. So make sure that you go on, follow Dubois Beauty, and follow the salon and the spa, and, take part of this really.
I write a blog every couple of weeks. Excuse me, really every week there is a blog that comes out on Dubois Beauty, and I try to write about healthful living tips. And so there's a lot of good information that you could even just follow along and learn.
That's fabulous. Well, thank you so much for being on the show and for, just sharing openly about all of the things that you've been doing. I think it's very inspirational. And I think it's something that, we get to look towards. Like, we get to do bigger things like this.
So I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much. I think it's wonderful that you have such a great podcast and sharing so much wonderful information for people in our industry. So kudos to you.
Thank you so much. I love it. I love meeting people and having, building these relationships and really starting to look outside of just the small community we have here. That's one thing about Zoom and all these different platforms, that we can start to connect with people all over the world, which is such a beautiful thing. Well, thank you for coming, and thank you everyone for listening. I will see you on the next episode.